Here. This is an extraordinary case of the Enfield Poltergeist, guys. Look at this detail now for a few minutes or so. So let's sit back, relax, and explore now the extraordinary case of the extraordinary Enfield Poltergeist, which haunted a house in London, England in 1977 or so, some 50 years ago, guys. Extraordinary case now. So look at this in detail now. So prepared to be spooked out. So we look at the extraordinary story with me, Magicalmike, of magicians involved with the extraordinary case of the Enfield Poltergeist that spooked a house some 50 years ago in London, England, guys. By the way, this is a bit spooky, guys, so be prepared. This video is a bit spooky, a bit freaky, guys. Let's look at this video now on the spooky Poltergeist of Enfield with some magicians involved. Here we're going to go, guys. Prepare to be spooked. This actually, guys, is interesting because this is actually a video more about ghosts today, guys. A bit more ghost kind of stuff today, seriously. And this is really to do paranormal activity and, of course, magicians being involved with paranormal activity and this sort of stuff, as I say, guys, because people investigate the paranormal, guys, ghosts, that kind of stuff over the last, 100 years or so, 200 years, and everything from Amityville to, to Houdini. And, of course, many people believe in this kind of stuff, as I say, and many magicians have got involved with it over the years and, of course, have debunked many of these paranormal activities, proving that there's often trickery, of course. Now, the thing about magicians is magicians often understand the principles of magic and conjuring, and therefore by doing that, people like James Randi, they kind of get into the world of paranormal investigation and they kind of debunk kind of people who are faking everything. So this is a video a little more about just one particular case where there was a lot of poltergeist activity in one house in London called the Enfield Poltergeist haunting, basically from 1977, some 50 odd years ago, actually, guys, nearly 50 years ago, guys. So many videos have been made about this. Very few magicians ever comment on this actual paranormal case, and that's why me as a magician, I started magic 45 years ago when I was 10 years old, and of course then I learned a lot about magic. Also studied myself paranormal activity a little bit at one point, so I got into that kind of stuff and seeing how magicians can investigate paranormal activity and try and debunk whether this is paranormal or whether it's actual real activity going on, basically. Simple as that, guys. And so sometimes you need someone with magical technology, magical inspiration, magical ideas and knowledge to look into kind of material involving stuff like ghosts and poltergeists to see if this stuff really is real or not. Simple as that, guys. Now, I look at this Enfield Poltergeist case here from 1977. The Enfield Poltergeist case was a claim of supernatural activity at 284 Green Street, Council House in Brimsdown, Enfield, London, England, between 1977 and 1979. The alleged poltergeist activity centered on Sisters Janet and Margaret Hodgson. Members of the Society of Psycho Researchers, such as an inventor called Maurice Grosse and writer Guy Lyon Playfair, believe haunting to be genuine. Other people, such as Anita Gregory and John Beloff, who were also investigators, were unconvinced and found evidence the girls had faked incidents of the benefit of journalists and to kind of baffle journalists and people walking in the house. Members of the Committee of the Scientific Investigation of Claims of Paranormal, called PSYCOP, PSYCOP, including stage magicians involved with this, were Milbourne Christopher, who was a great magician. He wrote many books, 50s, 60s, 70s, about magic, including about Houdini, and also a magician called Joe Nickel. And they criticised paranormal investigators for being credulous, while also identifying elements of the case as being indicative of a hoax. The story attracts press coverage in British newspapers and has been mentioned in books, featured in television, radio, documentaries and films, and dramatised in 2016 horror film called The Conjuring 2. Now, in 1977 August, single-parent Peggy Hodgson called the Met Police to a rented home in 284 Green Street, Enfield, London. This is like North London area, saying she witnessed furniture moving and that 2 of her 4 children had heard knocking sounds on the walls. Children included Janet, aged 11, and Margaret, aged 13. A police constable reported witnessing a chair wobble and slide on its own, but could not determine the cause of the movements. Later, claims included disembodied voices, floating voices from nowhere, loud noises, thrown toys, overturned chairs, and even children levitating. Yes, levitating. For a period of 18 months, more than 30 people, including Hodgson's neighbours, paranormal investigators and journalists, said they variously saw heavy furniture moving of its own accord on its own, objects being thrown around the house and rooms, and the sisters seemed to levitate several feet off the ground. Many also heard and recorded knocking voices and noises in a gruff voice. The story was regularly covered in the Daily Mirror newspaper in the UK until it came to an end in 1979. Society for Psychical Research (SPR) members Maurice Grosse and Lyon Playfair reported curious whistling and barking noises from Janet's general direction. Although Playfair maintained the paranormal entity was genuine and wrote in his later book, This House is Haunted, Story of the Poltergeists in 1980, that an entity was to blame for the Enfield disturbances, but he often doubted the children's veracity and wondered if they were playing tricks and exaggerating. Still, Grosse and Playfair, both investigators, believe that even though some of the alleged poltergeist activities were faked by the girls, the incidents were actually genuine. Other paranormal investigators who studied the case included American demonologist called Ed and Lorraine Warren, who visited the Enfield house in 1978 and were convinced that the events actually were real and supernatural. Janet was detected in trickery. To be honest, video camera in the adjoining room caught her bending spoons below Uragella and attempting to bend an iron bar. Grosse also observed Janet banging a broom handle on the ceiling and hiding his tape recorder. According to Lyon Playfair, one of Janet's voices, whom she called Bill, displayed a habit of suddenly changing the topic. It was a habit Janet also had, he said. When Janet and Margaret admitted pranking to journalists, Grosse and Playfair compelled the girls to retract their confessions. The two men were mocked by other researchers for being easily duped by the two girls. Psychic researcher Renee Haynes noted that doubts were raised about the alleged poltergeist voice at the SPR conference in Cambridge in 1978, where video cassettes from Enfield were examined quite carefully. An investigator called Anita Gregory stated the Enfield case had been overrated, characterising several episodes of the girls' behaviour as suspicious, and speculated that the girls had staged incidents for the benefit of journalists, making the whole thing sensationalised. A guy called Jen Beloff, a former president of the SPR, investigated and suggested Janet was practising ventriloquism. That's what that is, to actually make a voice appear from nowhere. In this case, the voice of apparently of a dead man. And Beloff and Gregory came to the conclusion that Janet and Margaret were playing tricks on the investigators. Other people investigated it, including magicians. Now, of course, the big magician investigated this. This is why I'm doing the video. Magician from the 40s, 50s, 60s called Milbourne Christopher, American magician, who was a big American magician and written many books of magic. Also written a big book on Houdini, who also been interested in spiritualism as well back in the 1900s, and also had been friends with the writer Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle, who also, as we know, was fascinated by spiritualism, believed in ghosts and everything else, and was convinced that actually Houdini was also walking through walls for real, that kind of thing. And of course, Houdini was just a magician; he was a faker, really, of course. But anyway, these guys didn't really believe in all this stuff, and of course, Milbourne Christopher was sceptical. He didn't believe it all. He thought it was all being done by trickery. As American state magician Milbourne Christopher, he investigated the Enfield occurrence himself, but also failed to observe anything that could be called paranormal. He was dismayed by what he felt was suspiciousity on the part of Janet, concluding that the poltergeist was nothing more than the antics of a little girl who wanted to cause trouble and who was very, very clever. Apparently the guy who haunted the house apparently was called Bill, actually, and of course, extraordinary enough, the girl, of course, was examined by Guy Lyon Playfair and also by Maurice Grosse. Janet, of course, who was given the voice, actually. Extraordinary enough, the voice was appearing out of her throat, actually, and it wasn't appearing from the larynx, it was appearing from above the larynx, actually, called the false vocal folds or something, which is the muscle above the larynx, actually, and she was actually producing the extraordinary voice of this ghost of Bill from that, actually, so it was really odd. And apparently, even Maurice Grosse, apparently, according to some his confessions, his writings about, obviously 50 odd years ago about this, that actually the Janet was actually had a mouthful of water, and the voice still emanated from mouth, even though she had a mouthful of water. So it's very extraordinary stuff about this, isn't it? As I say, how can you produce these extraordinary voices of a disembodied voice of a ghost person? Given that your mouth's full of water. Again, this would be a pretty impressive trick as a conjurer, wouldn't it? Let alone for like 11-year-old kids. So it's a pretty extraordinary piece of trickery there, isn't it? I don't know what you think about it. Very odd, isn't it? But to have a look, read it yourself and look through other videos about Maurice Grosse and his involvement with studying the extraordinary disembodied voice of the ghost of Bill, which apparently emanated from the mouth of the girl Janet in this extraordinary poltergeist case of the haunting of some almost 50 years ago, guys. Extraordinary stuff, isn't it? And apparently, what's to say, he also, this Bill, of course, apparently, who lived in the house, I think 50 years prior to when the family moved in the 1970s. This ghost, Bill, apparently was behind the haunting. This apparently the alleged poltergeist is actually buried at a cemetery, I think, within about a mile or so from the actual house. So he was a real character. So how the girls knew that is also quite extraordinary. And also they seem to have some good knowledge of what his life was like. Though, of course, he apparently died himself in the house, which is the reason why the house experienced such paranormal activity, of course. And of course the girl became the vocal mouthpiece for his voice. But even whatever you think about it, it is quite extraordinary, isn't it, how this extraordinary voice of Bill was generated, given that case she was pretty good at ventriloquism or something, or whatever she had. Even though her mouth was shut, she still managed to generate this really freaky kind of voice of the ghost of Bill. So do check out other videos as well about this, because it's interesting, and many videos do go into quite a lot of depth about the extraordinary disembodied voice of the ghost of Bill that appeared in the house. Also, a ventriloquist called Ray Allen, you might have heard of Ray Allen, a ventriloquist in the 1970s and 80s, also visited the house and concluded that Janet's male voices that were being produced from nowhere were simply vocal tricks. Okay. Skeptic also, Joe Nickell from the US-based Committee for Scientific Investigations of Claims of Paranormal, called PsyCop, examined the findings of paranormal investigators and criticised them for being overtly credulous. When he supposedly disembodied demonic voice was heard, Playfair noted that as always Janet's lips hardly moved. He stated that remote-controlled still camera, the photographer was not present in the room with the girls, was timed to take pictures every 15 seconds, was shown to investigator Melvin Harris to real pranking by the girls. He argues photograph allegedly depicts the girls levitating was actually showing her jumping off a bed as if it was a trampoline. Harris called the photographs examples of common gymnastics. He said it's not worth remembering that Janet was a school sports champion. Nickell pointed out that a tape recorder malfunction that Grosse attributed to supernatural activities, and SPR President David Fontana described as an occurrence which appeared to defy the laws of mechanics, was really a peculiar threading jam occurring with the older model of the reel-to-reel tape recorder. It was nothing to do with anything supernatural at all. The recorder was just jammed. He also said that Ed Warren was notorious for exaggerating, even making incidents in such cases, often transforming a simple haunting case into some sort of mad possession case. In 2015, Deborah Hyde, another more recent investigator and journalist, commented that there was no solid evidence for the Enfield ghost at all. First thing she said is to note that the occurrences didn't happen at all under controlled circumstances. People frequently see what they expect to see, their senses being organised and shaped by their own prior experiences and beliefs. So Deborah Hyde was not a believer either. This is about 7-8 years ago. Skeptics have argued that the alleged poltergeist voice originating from Janet was produced by false vocal cords of the larynx and had the phraseology and vocabulary of a child. Television interview, BBC Scotland, Janet was observed to gain attention by waving her hand and putting her hand in front of her mouth, where a claimed disembodied voice was heard. During the interview, both girls were asked the question, how does it feel to be haunted by a poltergeist? And Janet said, it's not haunted. But Margaret said in a hushed tone to her, shut up. Skeptics have regarded these factors as evidence against the case. As a magician experienced the dynamics of trickery, Mr. Nickell examined Playfair's account and contemporary press clippings. He noted that the supposed poltergeist tended to act only when it was not being watched. And there he concluded, as well as a magician and skeptic, the incidents were best explained as children's childish pranks. Though Maurice Grosse made tape recordings of Janet and believed no trickery was involved, magician Bob Cootie also went to visit the site as well, and he said some of the recordings available to me, having listened to them very carefully, he said I came to the conclusion that there was nothing in what I heard that was beyond the capabilities of a very imaginative child, basically. That's what Bob Cootie said. It was down to child imagination. All the recordings have been catalogued and digitised by SPR, and a book of the content has been actually made called the Enfield Poltergeist Tapes, published by White Crow. In 2016, an article by psychology professor Chris French in Time Out magazine described 5 reasons why I believe the case is also a hoax. He said the 2 sisters involved admitted to hoaxing some of the activity. The photo of Janet levitating was obviously her jumping out of the bed. The spirit of an old man who supposedly possessed Janet took a great deal of interest in menstruation. Eyewitnesses are notoriously unreliable anyway, and other schoolgirl pranks before and after have got out of hand. What a story, isn't it? What do you think about it? Seriously, comment below what you think about the case. Seriously, it's interesting many magicians were involved in the whole case. One, of course, the girls are alive, of course, and they stand by the story. I think guy Lyon Playfair still stood by it. I think he died about 10 years ago, but I think he actually believed it was actually real. Also, Grosse died about 2008, I think, and also he believed it was real. So many people did actually believe it was real, didn't they? There's much evidence out there, of course, isn't it? I know the girls still alive, the family still believe it already happened. But it's very interesting, isn't it? As I say, have you experienced poltergeist, guys? I don't know what you think about it all. Was it real? Was it not, guys? It's now almost 50 years ago, and the case kind of closed in 1979. So it's years and years ago since it all finished. Obviously, it's a very interesting case, isn't it? And interesting to see magicians like Milbourne Christopher involved in the case, examining their ideas about what really happened. Is it real? Is it fake? I don't know, guys. It's out there, isn't it? Many people made books and videos and movies about this extraordinary poltergeist activity in the house over in East London, isn't it? Back in 1977. It's a rare case. It's almost a one-off, isn't it? There's not many cases like it, as I say. People are prone to exaggerate, but I know, despite the magicians and everyone else investigating the case, and people who don't believe, many people still do believe in it, and do believe that some activity at least was real. Fascinating, isn't it? Have you been hit by poltergeist, guys? Well, let me know. Interested as a magician myself in this situation. I hope you enjoyed this video very much as always, guys. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed this very much indeed. And please subscribe. Also, please do like, as always, guys, the videos. Please watch other videos for loads of content and magic illusion. The last 400 videos I made or so, guys, covering all areas of magic and tricks and illusion, guys. And also, I might make more videos a bit on the paranormal too, actually, because paranormal crosses into magical, doesn't it? Of course, ghosts, that kind of stuff, UFOs. Anyway, enjoy that as always, guys. See you very soon, guys, as always. And please subscribe for more magic tricks and illusion. Me, Magicalmike. See you very soon, guys. Love you all. See you soon, and bye for now. Well, what do you think of that, guys? Weird, isn't it, story, isn't it? What a story that is, seriously, over there. It's story stuff. Let me know what you think about in the comments below. What you think about that, seriously. Really weird story, isn't it? What a freaky story this, isn't it? It's not when I'm normally doing that kind of stuff. But let me know what you think about that. Is that real, or is it fake? Is it real poltergeist activity, or was it really just all trickery, guys? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what you think about it, seriously, guys. Okay, and also whether magicians involved were real or not real about it, whether they actually had thought it was real or fake, guys. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my message today, guys. Please subscribe. See you again very soon, as always, and like to more magic tricks and illusions, and maybe I'll do some more videos on this kind of weird stuff too, guys. Okay, see you again very soon. Love you all, and bye for now, guys.